Hello and welcome to the AWS Digital Bharat Masterclass. And today we are discussing cybersecurity. Now, we know that data breaches or cyber attacks for small and medium businesses could pose major threats to the companies, so much so that a breach could potentially lead to the closure of the business altogether. And the COVID 19 pandemic has exacerbated these attacks on SMBs. Almost 50% of small businesses reportedly experienced a cyber attack in the first 12 months of the pandemic. We are joined today by Dr. Pavan Duggal, President of CyberLaw.net and cyber law expert, and Kimberly Chow, who is a specialist security architect at AWS. Today, they join us to help SMBs gauge the implications of data breaches, cyber attacks, and shed light on the significance of cloud adoption for improved security. Thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Duggal, we have seen that COVID 19 has had a huge impact in the way that businesses run, with remote working now becoming the norm instead of the exception. What impact do you think this has had in terms of cybersecurity? What are the implications of remote working in the new normal?
Well, the coming of COVID 19 has been an irreversible changing factor in our lives. And COVID 19 has had a massive impact upon cyberspace. So while we were all accompanied by fear and panic during COVID 19 times, I was busy trying to look at the impact of COVID 19 on cyberspace. And in my recent book, New Cyber World Order Post COVID 19, I've argued that by the time the countries are victorious against the current and subsequent wave of COVID 19 infections, the world will enter into a new cyber age where there will be a new cyber world order. And one of the key elements of the new cyber world order will be that cyber security breaches will be now the new default option, our daily constant companion. I think when I look at the cybersecurity breaches that have happened during COVID 19, I can very clearly let you know that these breaches have massively increased. We need to appreciate that these breaches are occurring at the time when the golden age of cybercrime has already begun. So, increasing cybercrime and increasing cybersecurity breaches are two sisters going hand with hand. And that's the reason why we are beginning to now find that ransomware is now impacting almost all major corporate sectors. Every 11 seconds, one company anywhere in the world becomes a victim of a ransomware attack. If that's the figure, and when you look at the exact losses that the world has actually suffered in 2020, you get an alarming picture. In the year 2020, thanks to these cybersecurity breaches, the world lost more than 8 trillion US dollars. However, that figure is no longer stationary. It's going down and is expected to even touch the figure of $8 trillion dollars by the time we hit by the end of 2021. So I think cybersecurity breaches are now the new normal. We have to start living with it. Let's not get paranoid, panicky, or let's not start hitting all our, shall I say, emotions when we get hit with a cybersecurity breach. The reality is the time has come that we have to start inculcating cybersecurity as a way of life. We have to start following cyber resilience, because if we don't do that, otherwise these kind of cybersecurity breaches will continue to keep on happening. I'm not an astrologer, so I can't say when will the next cybersecurity breach will happen with you or your organization. But once it happens, it's going to have a massive impact. So if you can actually incorporate cyber resilience, there is no denying the fact that it's going to impact you, your organization, your data, your reputation, your current business, and potential business prospects. So in a scenario like this, the focus will now increasingly have to be on cyber resilience. You see, it's like there's storm out there. It's raining cats and dogs, and you're going to leave your premises. I'm asking you, please carry an umbrella, carry a good raincoat so that you don't get wet. And these approaches of cyber resilience are your raincoats, your umbrellas, which are going to hold you in good stead as and when these cybersecurity breaches are targeting you as an individual or you as an organization.
So cybersecurity has to become a way of life. It is becoming a way of life. Kimberly, let me come to you. In the past, CISOs and security leaders have had trouble getting a
Mhm.
seat at the table, with security seen more as a blocker or a check the box activity than a business enabler. Do you think this is still the case? What has changed in the new normal?
Absolutely. So I kind of said it better than myself. The thing is, in the new normal, we're seeing an increase in connectivity across the workforce. Everybody is online. Most of our relationships are actually virtual, whether it's with our colleagues or our peers or even the stranger who reaches out to join your networks via LinkedIn. And I think that actually business leaders, CISOs, as well as the board of directors are actually seeing that security is actually getting that seat at the table these days. Security is leading the way in terms of increasing budgets, increasing team sizes, and as well as increasing strategic impact. What we're seeing is that in the new normal, business leaders, CEOs, board of directors, and all of their like have started being held accountable for security lapses and incidents within the organization. So security is now more of a topic of strategic conversation for a lot of organizations, regardless of size, industry, or maturity. We're also seeing a greater investment in security as a whole. For example, in Europe, the IDC's new Worldwide Security Spending Guide indicates that European IT security spending will rise to a total value of 37.2 billion, which is an 8.2% year-on-year compound annual growth when it comes to security spending. And in Asia Pacific, as well as in India, spending on these security solutions is expected to grow at 14% year-on-year in 2021. I feel that in terms of the new normal, more organizations are actually adopting a cloud-first strategy as well as a digitally enabled business environment. And they have a real liability on security partners to address these security needs. So it's now actually a really great opportunity for SMBs. It's a really great opportunity for organizations to actually step in, step up, revamp their security strategies, and figure out the way forward for all of their security organizations. I believe that security is no longer just a checkbox activity, but it's actually becoming a business-aware kind of cybersecurity risk that we see a trend in. It's really becoming very important at the board level.
So, Dr. Duggal, Kimberly just told us that cybersecurity is no longer a check the box activity for companies. I want to ask you, what should SMBs do to take advantage of this trend? What should CISOs and security leaders of SMBs who might be at the initial stage of their security journey focus on?
Well, today, if you're an SME or if you are at the beginning of your journey, you must consider yourself lucky. Why? Because now you have the wherewithal to go ahead and plan for your cybersecurity in a very comprehensive manner. If you would have already done a lot of activities or a lot of initiatives taken, then trying to review and then trying to revise them would be a much more tedious proposition. Now, you need to appreciate that if you are operating in a country, you are governed by the country's laws. Some countries have begun to start coming up with the national laws on cybersecurity. These are countries like Singapore, like China, like Vietnam, and even Australia. And as far as India is concerned, India does not have any dedicated law on cybersecurity, though the Indian Cyber Law, being the Information Technology Act 2000, has now gone ahead and legally defined cybersecurity in a very, very comprehensive manner. Also, as an SME, you now need to understand that you are now an intermediary, because today, when you are dealing with third-party data, which is not your data, which could be the data of your customers, your clients, your business partners, business associates, then you get qualified in your capacity as an intermediary under the Indian Cyber Law. Now, once you're an intermediary, then now you are required to take various steps for protecting the cyber security of your systems and your data. For example, the Information Technology Rules 2021 have been enacted and implemented in India with effect from 25th of February 2021. Now, these are mandating every SME, every big company, every IT company that's dealing with third-party data, which becomes an intermediary, to implement and maintain reasonable security practices and procedures when they go ahead in terms of handling, dealing, or processing third-party data. And the Indian law has already stipulated that an ISO 27001 is one example of reasonable security practices and procedures. Look, please understand, the law is not wanting you to get certified as ISO 27001. The law says, please follow the basic principles and foundations of the international cybersecurity standard of ISO 27001. So if you're an SME or if you're a company that's on your current new journey on protecting cybersecurity, I would advise you to ensure compliance with applicable laws, ensure that you have in place reasonable security practices and procedures. Please follow up the mandate and the foundations of the ISO 27001. Also, you have to come up with various other compliances as an intermediary that now you're required to do under the Indian Information Technology Act 2000 and the Information Technology Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Storage Media Ethics Rules 2021. So it's not just about a particular product. It's not just a mindset that let me finish or let me pick up a product or a service and I'm done for life. Sorry. Cybersecurity is a daily challenge. What was done yesterday may have been secure, but that may not necessarily be secure today. And what's today secure will definitely not be secure tomorrow. So as organizations, you'll have to start allocating separate budgets on your cybersecurity. If you're dealing with sensitive personal data, which is data of individuals pertaining to their health records, their financial records, their sexual orientations, or their biometric and related information, then the law is now asking you to put a higher level of compliance in terms of data protection and cybersecurity, because as an organization, you realize you don't invest in cybersecurity and you are now playing with fire. It's something like jumping into a well of fire without having a fire suit on. So obviously the fire is going to burn you at any and every portion available. So in a scenario like this, please understand, if you are not going to take appropriate steps for protecting and preserving cybersecurity, please realize that the law is now going to give you two exposures. Number one, you will be exposed to civil liability of paying unlimited damages by way of compensation to those people whose data is impacted as a result of breach of your cybersecurity. And the second thing is that your top management as a company is now going to be liable to be punished for various offenses under the Information Technology Act 2000 and the Indian Penal Code. So please go ahead and do your homework properly. Do not only rely upon a particular product or a particular service. Please satisfy yourself about what's specifically being offered to you by the vendors. Ask the vendors how their products or services are compliant with the applicable laws and rules and regulations in India, and how can they protect you to limit your legal liability for potential exposure to legal consequences, and keep on revisiting cybersecurity on a daily basis. Your boards will have to now take a far more proactive action on cybersecurity. You will have to have dedicated officers on cybersecurity. You will have to keep on revisiting. Why? Because cyber attacks have grown phenomenally in the last 18 months, ever since we began to see the coming of the pandemic. So this is not just a pandemic, it's a cyber pandemic. And in this cyber pandemic, your data, your systems, your computer resources are on target, potentially to be attacked by cyber criminals, by state and non-state actors. So the quicker and the more in a comprehensive manner you focus on cyber security of your devices, of your computer systems and networks and data resident therein, the better it will be from a legal, pragmatic, and from a practical standpoint.
Yes, I actually wanted to add to that as well. Security fundamentals, whether you're on-prem or in the cloud or whatever security vendor that you're currently using, fundamentals still stay the same. So things exactly like what Dr. Pavan was saying, access controls, network security controls, data protection controls, detection controls, having a tried and tested incident response plans, all of these security fundamentals stay the same. So this is something in security world that we call cyber hygiene. And it's a really easy goal to drive to if you lean upon industry best practices and frameworks to build upon a strong foundation for security. So look to incorporate elements of things such as the NIST cybersecurity framework into your IT security policies, such that in everything that your organization builds or does, you really take a security risk-based approach. And really what you're doing is building those guardrails for your engineering or your development teams to understand what they can and cannot do while they're building these applications. I also think that it's really important as well to really think about increasing that training and awareness within your organizations, especially around security. So we have a few free digital security trainings for a lot of organizations to use. Most recently at the White House, AWS has just released something called a cybersecurity awareness training. And I think that is so important for any organization that's watching this today. It actually allows you to identify the most common types of exploits for businesses or individuals. It looks at, how social engineering actually works. And this is something that we're currently using at Amazon, but we realize that small smaller companies might not have the capacity, might not have the capability or resources to run these trainings. So we actually made this free. So obviously being very aware about the fact that people is your weakest link, training them, training the culture of escalation when it comes to security incidents, that's very important as well.
Some very important points by both Mr. Dugal and Kimberly. Dr. Dugal, you talked about the fact that this is a cyber pandemic, and there needs to be awareness about the local laws. That is very important. And Kimberly, you said that a cyber security first approach is what companies need to take. You did talk about cloud, and I want to ask you,
Hmm.
cloud is now being considered as the new frontier of business computing and delivery of software and applications, and is rapidly overtaking the traditional systems. What, according to you, makes cloud preferable over traditional data management systems?
So one of the key benefits when it comes to security, especially when you're using the cloud, is that you now very easily have the ability to use security tools at scale. So take encryption as an example. In the past, encryption was very taxing on an organization to achieve. Not only do you need the capability and the skill sets to manage your cryptographic skills, you also require a significant amount of investments in terms of hardware, things such as hardware security modules that have high availability and durability. However, when you move to the cloud, you can now perform very strong encryption on your data at rest and in transit by using highly available and durable secure services such as AWS Key Management System. So you can actually use this at scale. So you can push off that heavy lifting in terms of infrastructure to AWS while you focus on building the right encryption strategies for your organization. Secondly, I think visibility is a very large factor. So on AWS, you're able to know what has been deployed within your environment, where your data is secured, who can access it, and what resources your organization is consuming at any given moment. So that fine-grained identity and access controls combined with that continuous monitoring is extremely important to know who can actually access these resources in any real time. Thirdly, you need to think about automation of security tasks. You're able to actually automate your security tasks when you're using security products at scale. So that actually enables you to be more secure by reducing human configuration errors, and it gives your team more time to actually focus on the work that is critical to your business.
Absolutely important points there. Dr. Dugal, I want to take the example of ransomware. And given that every ransomware is different, how can we proactively protect our organization? Of course, you said that we cannot predict cyber attacks or ransomware attacks, but what are some of the proactive steps that we can take, and how can we mitigate its impact proactively?
So let's begin by the basic fundamental premise that we are a potential victim or a potential target of ransomware, and that ransomware as a phenomenon is likely to hit us or our systems at any given point of time. If we begin with a basic presumption, then to a large extent you can modify and customize your approaches with these kind of presumptions. So, for example, I would want organizations to have immediate focus on backups of all their data, not just normal business data, but also sensitive data, confidential data, trade secrets. And those backups must not only be available at the location, there must also be a disaster recovery management systems available. So that have it at a separate location. In the event your location is attacked by potential fire or an earthquake or any other act of God. Number two, I think you need to focus on enhancing your perimeters of security. Well, the coming of work from home has effectively demolished perimeter security. But having said that, you still have to go ahead and, shall I say, safeguard your crown jewels. Because these crown jewels are what's potentially going to be targeted by ransomware attacks. Today, when I look at the US Colonial Pipeline case, it's told us one classical example. Just about nobody is immune from ransomware. And once that happens, you have only two options. Either to not give ransom and then rebuild the said data, if possible, at n number of period of time at n number of cost that you can't imagine. Or the second is to just randomly give the ransomware. Either way, when I look at the FBI advisories, when I look at law enforcement agencies across the world, they're categorically saying, sir, please don't give ransom. Why? Because that's going to give a confirmation to the cyber criminals. Number one, you have the ability to go ahead and pay ransomware. Number two, you are weak and you can potentially be attacked again. So in a scenario like this, if we focus on our crown jewels, in terms of not just enhancing our perimeter security, also putting in appropriate parameters so that the security of corporate data, while resident or accessed from work from home devices, can be appropriately protected. Further, I think the time has come where more innovative legal approaches will have to be adopted. Employees now who are working from home will have to be sensitized of the consequences in case if they are negligent in not putting in place appropriate security parameters while dealing with corporate data. So it ultimately begins with due diligence, caution, care, cyber resilience, cyber hygiene, and basically a cyber wellness approach. Let's begin to start realizing that we are all swimming in an ocean where there are sharks all around us. And our effort, every moment of our existence, has to be to protect ourselves, our organizations, our data from these sharks, these state or non-state actors who are all out to attack us. And once an attack takes place, the chances are that most of the times these attacks will be so potent enough that your business operations will be completely wiped off, or you will be tremendously impacted economically. And the impact is something that's going to be felt for years to come. So it's always said prevention is better than cure. Focus on capacity building, focus on enhancing your cybersecurity skill sets, and finally, empowering the user per se. We are running a platform known as cyberlawuniversity.com, where we offer online courses on capacity building, on cybersecurity and cyber law, including an international certification course on cybersecurity law. And when these kind of courses get done by about 26,000 students from 172 countries across the world over 3 years, they're telling you one story. The story is that there is a need for more capacity building. There's a need for strengthening the individual, because that's the weakest link in the cybersecurity ecosystem. No amount of technology can guarantee you that you will be 100% safe. But yes, if we start empowering users, then to a large extent, we can contribute in a more concrete manner towards enhancing the cybersecurity of your organizations, your computer devices, and your electronic data.
Yeah, I would also like to add to that as well. So I think encryption of data is extremely important. I touched on that slightly earlier, but we have an increasing number of something called double extortion schemes, especially when it comes to ransomware. So a double extortion is when an actor not only encrypts the data that sits within your system, but exfiltrates the data and then threatens to release the data if the ransom isn't paid. So to help protect your data, on top of everything that Dr. Dougal has actually mentioned, make sure that you protect your data by enabling encryption, segmenting your workflows so that authorized systems and users have limited access to use the key material to decrypt that data. That's extremely important, on top of also thinking about implementing critical patches, making patching automated, making sure that it's applied across your organization, making sure you apply critical patches as and when it's released. That's also extremely important to think about as well. And I also want to say that really monitoring as well as automating your responses. So I've said that earlier, but I'll say it again. Make sure you've got a very robust monitoring and alerting system in place. Each of the items that I've actually mentioned earlier is a very powerful tool to help you protect against a ransomware event, but none will work unless you have very strong monitoring in place to validate your assumptions.
Absolutely. I think double extortion, like you said, is a big threat right now. And like Dr. Dougal put it, organizations are swimming with sharks all around. It's a very apt analogy there. Kimberly, I want to ask you, implementing security controls and shifting security left, that is introducing security sooner in the development process, can often be complex and costly. How can SMBs ensure that they're keeping their data safe given these potential barriers?
So one of the most interesting statements I've heard this year was actually from our AWS CISO Steve Schmidt's keynote at the Reinforce Conference 2021. And the phrase was, if you're a ship at sea, you don't want to also be predicting the weather. So in essence, what he's actually trying to say is that for organizations, especially SMBs, to trust your security specialists, your security products, and your security vendors who specialize in building security. So what is the point of using organizational resources to build things that are extremely sophisticated? Mastering cybersecurity especially demands considerable time, resources, and understanding of very complex regulatory requirements. At AWS, we have engaged with our partner network, a community of businesses who leverage AWS to build solutions and services to build these secure solutions for some of our most regulated and largest organizations, while freeing up resources so that they can focus on driving growth and innovation. So, in the same way, I believe that SMBs need to focus their time and effort on the product and service that they're delivering to the market rather than trying to build very complicated security tools. So, I ask all SMBs to continually work with your security vendors, your security architects that you might be working with at AWS, as well as the AWS Partner Network, to do the heavy lifting for you. So, ensure that you continuously focus on building those basic security hygiene that I mentioned earlier. There's no true secret sauce to security. But by ensuring these strong security hygiene, such as identity and access controls, strong data security controls, implementing security at each layer, and encrypting your data, SMBs can actually go a long way in increasing their security posture.
Dr. Dugal, do you have any points to add here when security controls sometimes can be both complex and costly for SMBs? What is the best way ahead?
Well, it's always said that you cannot be an expert in all the areas of human activity and endeavor. So you pick and choose what's your core competence. If cybersecurity is your core competence, then I'm sure you don't require any assistance. But in case if your core competence is your business, your day-to-day operations, or your line of activity, then clearly I would suggest that you should leave the expertise of cybersecurity on experts who are doing it on a daily basis. And I think the time has come where the all-rounder approach is now gone. We all have to specialize and have to be focused or excelling in a particular aspect. And therefore, cybersecurity is a constantly growing paradigm. You cannot, even if on your own individual levels, be completely up to date with the latest technological trends, with the latest approaches and methodologies that the cyber criminals are now using for the purposes of targeting you. So if I'm a normal SME company, I will say, let me focus on my core competence. Let me outsource my cybersecurity to those guys who are masters in cybersecurity. Why? Because they are likely to do this on a much better scale than me per se. And therefore, you have to realize that, look, with these new constant paradigms evolving on cybersecurity, you have to really rely upon experts. There are n number of vendors available. You can pick and choose whom you really want to in terms of your selected approaches or methodologies on cybersecurity. But please listen to experts. Why? Because the experts are going to give professional advice to you and are going to help you to protect yourself and your data from potential compromise or potential breaches in the coming times.
Absolutely. I think when it comes to cybersecurity, you have to rely on and trust experts. Cannot cut corners there. Dr. Dugal, when it comes to incident response and mitigation, that should be another focus for SMBs. How can SMBs effectively mitigate security incidents?
Well, most of the time in countries, data breach reporting is a low priority item. Why? Because most of the SMEs believe that if they are going to report a data breach at their end, they are going to be perceived as being unsecure, and they could impact not just their business operations, their business prospects, but even their share pricing. So that's the reason why most people choose not to report. But I think the winds of change are blowing very rapidly. Countries across the world are now increasingly getting more stringent in terms of coming up with mandatory norms on data breach reporting. So in the Indian context, for example, now India has a data breach reporting legislation in place. There's a notification which has now been issued by the government effective 25th of February 2021. These are known as the Information Technology Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Storage Media Ethics Rules 2021. These are now mandating that if you are an SME, which is dealing with third-party data, that means if you are an intermediary, you are now mandated to report any cybersecurity breach that occurs on your system to the Indian Nodal Agency on Cybersecurity, being the Computer Emergency Response Team of India. And there's a notification of the Reserve Bank of the Computer Emergency Response Team of India, which talks about 10 different kinds of incidents which have to be now mandatorily reported. If you don't report this, you actually commit a crime under the Indian cyber law, punishable with 2 years imprisonment and fine. So I think there's now need for creating more awareness amongst SMEs that in case a data breach happens, don't panic. Please report so that you can come within the ambit of a status of a victim. Because if you're going to be brushing it below the carpet, somewhere down the line, today, tomorrow, day after, this is going to come in the public domain. And then the affected stakeholders could sue you that, look, you did nothing to prevent this cybersecurity breach. Even you did not do the mandatory reporting of cybersecurity breach. That could be far more costlier in terms of not just legal consequences, but also impact upon business reputations and standings. So I think SMEs, let's quickly realize that let's begin with the given reality that yes, we are going to be attacked by cybersecurity breaches. Let's beef up our cybersecurity. Let's enhance our capacity buildings and awareness levels. Let's even sensitize our top boards and our top management with the latest nuances pertaining to the legal and technical aspects of cybersecurity, something like what cyberlawuniversity.com is doing through its various courses. And in case if there's an unfortunate incident of a cybersecurity breach, don't panic. Please report not just to the Indian Nodal Agency on Cybersecurity, but also report to the law enforcement agencies. And you don't even now have to go to a police station. You can actually report these kind of breaches by means of automated portals which are now available. For example, India has a portal called cybercrime.gov.in that allows you to report these kind of breaches on an electronic basis. So once you do that, let's take each breach as a great teacher. Let's not think it as a scar or a bad event. Let's look at it that this is a small incident. It could have been far more worse. Let's now learn our learnings from this episode. And now let's go ahead and revisit our cybersecurity in such a manner so that we can prevent these kinds of cybersecurity breaches in the coming times. So there's a need for far more holistic, open-minded, and futuristic approaches to be adopted by SMEs in this entire context of data breach and related notification approaches.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Dr. Dougal said it perfectly. Prevention is always better than cure when it comes to cybersecurity. There are very three basic things I think you can start with to prevent these attacks. So firstly, use multi-factor authentication, extremely simple to do. Implement least privilege when it comes to access. And of course, taking action on your security alerts and findings. If there's one thing that I want the audience to take away today is don't handle incident response manually. So don't plan your security program against competing with bad actors in real time. Because the time it takes for you to figure out that you have an issue, detect the problem, contact the right people, it's a very lengthy period which you're not stopping the bad guy and you're not stopping your exploits. So what I want everybody to do is to really correlate your findings to help find these prioritized incidents faster. Create and customize your own tailored insights to very specific security use cases and drive to root cause immediately so that when you do get alerts in future, you get to trust your alerts. It's no longer going to be an entire mess of just false positives. If you turn off your alerts each time because you think it's a false positive, you might actually miss something very important in the future. And once you've done that, I need to stress this again, start automating your responses. So on AWS, you can automate responses to very common things, such as automating AWS web application firewall rules to filter out very common web-based exploits. And I also want to add that not all attacks are external. So another thing you should be monitoring and governing as well is internal misconfigurations that reduce your security posture as a whole. You should be using automation tools to monitor for changes in your environment, whether it's a sudden elevation of user privileges, a change in network rules, or a sudden creation of resources. You really need to start looking at all of this as well. And really do not normalize security deviance. So if you allow one bad thing to happen over and over again without solving the root cause, you're never going to be able to catch your anomalous behaviors. So understand your baseline and act accordingly to mitigate.
Absolutely. Some very important points where both of you, Dr. Dougal talked about reporting of cybersecurity incidents. Kimberly, are you seeing a lot of companies coming out and reporting such incidents, or is it still them trying to brush it under the carpet or ignoring it? Are you seeing any trends like that?
Absolutely. So what we're actually seeing is that with things such as the GDPR and all of those regulations that Dr. Dougal has actually mentioned, we now have a monetary imperative to actually make sure that we are reporting breaches in time. And I think that's extremely important to take away as well. It's not good enough to just sweep all of these incidents under the rug. It really is not only a moral imperative, but it actually will impact upon your organization's reputation if you do so. Always think about how you would do crisis communication organizations especially. So things such as making sure that your organization understands how to communicate in the event of a cyber breach so that you're not impacting upon your customer. It's both a more moral as well as a regulatory obligation now for you to safeguard your customers' data and, of course, to let them know whenever a breach happens.
Absolutely. It's a moral obligation and also obligated by the law in several cases, like Dr. Dugal was pointing out. My last question is, taking a step away from the complexities of cybersecurity itself to the fact that there is still a challenge when it comes to hiring the best experts out there. Finding quality security talent has always been a challenge. Demand is high, and there are few qualified, experienced people. Add cloud security skills to your search, and hiring managers feel that they have a next to impossible job of finding, affording, and retaining people with these critical skill sets. What are some of the actionable advice you would give to SMB owners to retain top security talent? And Dr. Dugal, maybe you can start on this.
Well, I will actually say let's begin to have an open mindset. There's immense shortage of well-experienced or well-trained cybersecurity professional. So please identify what are your cybersecurity needs, and on that basis, go ahead and try to identify who could be potentially those professionals whom you could potentially want to hire. And please realize that even when you hire, there's going to be high attrition, primarily because the moment they get a bigger package or a more opportunity, they're going to walk away. So somewhere down the line, you will have to make them an integral part of your business approaches. You will have to make them equally responsible. There has to be ownership put for cybersecurity aspects. It's a good idea to constantly keep on replenishing your bloodstream. Why? Because till such time you don't get the young blood, which is going to invigorate your thought processes in terms of cybersecurity, you as an organization may not be able to go very far off. But ultimately, treat them properly, treat them with respect, and also encourage that you invest on their capacity building and trainings. So even if you get these best minds, put them on the latest trainings that are available so that they can hone their skill sets. Actually, technology and cybersecurity are moving at a very rapid pace. And you can't say, I've done a course and I'm done for life. Sorry. COVID-19 has told us now you'll have to keep on brushing your digital skill sets so that you can be more abreast with what the latest developments are. So please invest in their training, in their capacity building, and also keep on investing in your security parameters, whether it's apparatus, whether it's systems, whether it's cloud, or whether it's any other software or hardware-related approach, depending on your specific area of activity. But ultimately, please start giving more and more focus and importance to those guys in the company who are looking at your cybersecurity, because if these guys are successful in what they are doing, then as an organization, you can grow, your businesses can grow, and it can be a very bright future for all of you.
Absolutely. I hope SMBs are taking note. Kimberly, your thoughts on what SMBs should do to attract the best cybersecurity professionals out there and to also retain them. Like Dr. Dugal said, there is high attrition levels these days when it comes to such talent.
I really like what Dr. Dougal said about thinking broader. So think about our adversaries, right? What life experiences, what backgrounds do they have? We don't know. It's really that diverse mix of people from all walks of lives, from virtually anywhere on the planet. They might have very different motivations, be it political, ideological, or criminal. It's very, very difficult to pinpoint who these people might actually be. So therefore, our defenders should really reflect the same. When you think about it, our defenders should have unique, diverse backgrounds and life experiences. So I really believe that we give non-traditional IT backgrounds a chance. In security, we always say aptitude and willingness is actually more important than any kind of educational background. I think that developing future employees is also extremely important. So if you have a next generation of security professionals, to get them interested in the profession, you can actually use them to supplement some of the coding needs of our existing security team. So this is especially great if your organization is starting to think about building an automated pipeline, such as those for CI/CD. You should be using those skill sets to learn how to actually secure that CI/CD pipeline. Your organization will benefit immediately from some of these latest skills. And you might inspire somebody to actually go on a whole new career trajectory. Exactly, Dr. Dougal said, training and awareness, making sure we actually have a robust educational program. Cybersecurity professionals are very curious by nature. Find that one person who wants to learn something about security and give them that opportunity to do that.
Some very key points there by the both of you. This has been a very enlightening session and a lot of important takeaways for SMBs when it comes to all aspects of cybersecurity that we have discussed during this conversation. I want to thank you once more and for joining on this AWS Digital Bharat Masterclass on cybersecurity.